Welcome to, or back to, Forgotten Hollywood, the channel where I take you back in time to show you the movies, shows, and actors that have faded over the years. Every once in a while, a movie comes along that not only starts an iconic franchise, but sparks a phenomena. These were movies that were usually made to stand alone, or at least the studio was prepared to take a loss and forget about it, but the fans had other ideas. Sequels, cartoons, TV shows, merchandise, conventions, you name it, they have it. In 1977, it was Star Wars. In 1981, Indiana Jones. Back to the Future in 1985. But 1 year before that, the paranormal came to the big screen in Ghostbusters. In the original script, Ghostbusters was meant to be a futuristic sci-fi story, where being a ghost hunter was a specialized but standard profession, like a plumber or electrician. There was a global network of these paranormal investigators protecting the living from the dead. Obviously, some changes were made to the script, I believe for budgetary reasons, but the core of the story remained a small band of experts in a field so specialized that many people thought it was a joke, saving their city and really the whole world from the dangers of the supernatural. The main story focuses on three main characters as they battle the paranormal in New York City.
You know, it's just occurred to me we really haven't had a completely successful test of this equipment.
I blame myself.
So do I.
Yes, I know that Winston and Janine are just as important to the team as Peter or Egon, but you can't deny that the power trio gets the most screen time. Interestingly, Winston was actually supposed to have a much bigger role, but script changes pushed back his introduction. Some people consider this a major flaw of the movie, but I always liked his first scene because it was a great character introduction, laying out who he was, why he was there, and enough about his personality for him to be relatable. The character of Winston is an everyman, in contrast to the members of the Power Trio, who have more extreme personalities. These four men perfectly balanced to create the team needed to save the world. The sequel, released in 1989, continues the story started in the original iconic movie. This time, years later, the guys have basically caught all the ghosts in New York City and are forced to take side jobs to pay the bills. This is a natural progression from the ghost-catching spree they went on in the first film. Even the dead are not infinite. But when a new threat emerges, they are ready and willing to suit up and shut it down.
Lieutenant, I think you better talk to this guy.
I'm busy here.
It's some dock supervisor down at Pier 34.
What's the problem?
He says the Titanic just arrived.
These two films in 5 years laid the groundwork for the larger franchise, including two separate animated TV shows. The first was actually released in 1986, 3 years before the big screen sequel, and lasted until 91. As a kid, not allowed to watch the live-action movies, this was my first experience with the Ghostbusters. You can imagine my surprise when I discovered that Egon wasn't actually blonde with a victory curl.
Very strange. They shouldn't have the energy for roving attacks, unless they have some source. Left!
Say, Egon, you think we could have a little more warning next time? Like, not to get personal, of course, but...
Right! Now, what were you saying, Peter?
Never mind.
After the successful cartoon and live-action sequel, the second animated series came out in 1997. However, this one had very few of the original characters and was not as big a hit as the previous versions. No new incarnation was attempted until 2016, when an all-female team was formed for a new movie to reboot the franchise. The attempt not only slipped, it face-planted into the mud. It was clear that they were trying to recreate the original four, but as caricatures of what they were. Ray's enthusiasm was replaced by an almost juvenile personality prone to pouting, complaining, and rambling. Peter was replaced by a character so deadpan I was well into the movie before I figured out that she was not meant as a stand-in for Egon. Bill Murray's signature dry delivery was toned down to the point of being more like the acting equivalent of plain toast. The character that was meant to be a replacement for Egon took his social awkwardness and turned it into sexual awkwardness coupled with technical jargon that had no basis in real science. It was so jarring that it took me most of the movie to figure out that she was supposed to be the beloved scientist. The one recognizable thing about her didn't actually connect her to Harold Ramis's character, but his animated counterpart, that being her blonde hair. The rest of her was basically unrecognizable. Last came the fill-in for Winston. The classic everyman was swapped out for an over-the-top streetwise woman who did more yelling than most of their victims. Her biggest contribution was knowing random facts about the city and slapping Melissa McCarthy. The one almost redeeming factor of the movie were the cameos of the surviving cast from the first Ghostbusters. I was particularly fond of Dan Aykroyd playing the nonchalant cabbie who was more concerned about driving to Chinatown than the ghosts roaming around the city.
Look, I don't go to Chinatown, I don't drive Wacos, and I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
After the box office failure in 2016, the son of the original director set out to make it up to the fan base. The solution was a new movie in 2021. This one had a more balanced cast, in no way tried to recreate the original, and most importantly for some fans, was a follow-up to the second film and not connected to the previous reboot. This story was more of a passing of the torch, honoring the past while introducing a new generation. The star of the show was young Phoebe, played by the talented McKenna Grace. This child star managed to outshine the entire cast of the 2016 version all by herself.
Hit it. You didn't hit it! You destroyed it! It doesn't even exist anymore! My turn.
Of course, the script and supporting cast helped, including the returning characters. It stands as a prime example of how to continue a franchise decades later and do it right. It has been nearly 40 years since we were first asked who to call. Through the various reincarnations and attempted reboots, the franchise may have strayed here and there, but it remains strong. Ghostbusters Afterlife proves that the fans are still interested in good stories with our ghost-fighting heroes. What will come next, only time will tell. But as with other fans, I am looking forward to the next chapter of this iconic and ghostly universe. Thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on the Ghostbusters? Which film or show was your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this sort of content. Also, click that bell to receive notifications. Let me know if there is another iconic franchise you would like me to look at, and I will catch up with you next time.